Local programming on KRWG made possible in part by viewers like you. Thank you.
Welcome to Your Legislators, a production of KRWG Broadcasting. Your Legislators is a public service program providing our viewing audience in southern New Mexico the opportunity to hear about important legislative issues directly from their elected representatives in Santa Fe.
I'm Glen Cerny, and welcome to Your Legislators. Again, while we're celebrating our 50th year of broadcasting at KRWG, this also marks the 9th year we've been making sure that you're in touch with your legislators while they're in Santa Fe during the legislative session. And I'm honored to have someone that I consider an old friend, Senator Mary Kay Papen. Welcome to your legislators.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's kind of nice just having to sit down and breathe for a moment.
Well, it is.
It?
Yes, it is. And we do travel around a lot and try and get from committee to committee. So, yes, it is. Thank you.
District 38. Can you kind of give us a geographical lesson here of where District 38 encompasses?
Well, District 38 starts just at Mayfield High School, and it weaves on down Valley Drive and goes over into Old Mesilla. That encompasses it. Go on down south through La Mesa, Chamarino, move on over to Mesquite, Barino, Vado, come back up to Tortugas, the New Mexico State University, and circles on back around through town. So I have 8 colonias, lots of farmers, lots of businesses, and a second municipality along with the city of Las Cruces. So it's a great area, a great district. And I go clear down to the Mexican border.
In a decade and a half of serving here in the legislature, you've also picked up the title of President Pro Tempore. Could you kind of explain the responsibilities of serving that in the Senate?
Well, the President Pro Tem is probably the most powerful person in the Senate, is really the majority floor leader. And so I do chair the committee's committee. And the committee's committee picks the chairman for all of the committees, and then we fill in the committee members that serve on those. I also am co-chairman of the council service along with Speaker Tripp, so that I serve on quite a few interim committees. As pro tem and a member of the council service, I'm not a voting member on those except of the committee's committee. I also serve on the Capitol Buildings Project oversight, and I'm a voting member on that. The other ones, I moved to advisory member, where I had been voting member on several of these committees previously. So it's just dated, and there's a lot of things that when we have visitors coming in, you know, there's sort of that sort of a aspect to it as well, and just making sure that the Senate is running well. When the Lieutenant Governor is not here, the Pro Tem chairs the Senate. So there are a lot of responsibilities that I didn't have when I was just a senator.
We're about 3 weeks into the session. It's a long session, but just an impression. And first of all, I don't think the roundhouse during sessions is ever calm, but there seems to be more progress happening here in 3 weeks. Have you gotten a sense of the tenor of the session?
You know, I think it's right now it seems to be pretty calm moving forward, but of course we're not really digging into the hard business yet. You know, Senate Finance is still interviewing all of the cabinet secretaries and what's going on there. We're introducing a lot of memorials on the floor, and also debating some of the memorials, but we're really not down to where we're bringing the legislation, if you want to call it that, down to the floor for the debates. Those are still in committees. I have to say that my working with Speaker Tripp has been a pleasure. I've had several meetings with him, and I work very well with Speaker Martinez as well. So I said we just need to work like really good next door neighbors.
Well, and we should point out it's a little different dealing with a Republican and Speaker of the House this
Well,
year.
it is, and that's why we need to keep those lines of communication open, and we do need to operate like good next door neighbors. So far that's the way that's been operating.
I was kidding Senator John Arthur Smith that he's kind of the fiscal overseer. He
Dr.
will
No.
he will question any projection.
That's right.
And I understand that the projection of new funding has dropped under $100 million now, even though
right.
it went up, oil went up over $50 a barrel yesterday.
Right. So we're trying to figure out the budget and where it's going to go. I've been working on my capital outlay for my area, for the city, for the whole city, but then also for my area. And I keep thinking, okay, well, I'm looking at this amount of money, and I think we will get less than half of what we got last year. If not, I don't know what we're going to get, maybe a third of what we got last year. So we're in tough times, and it just behooves us to tighten our belts, and we've done it before, we can do it again, and figure out how we're going to spread the money, but we need to spread it evenly and make sure that we don't just have so many entities want it all, and that just it doesn't work out for that way. So we are New Mexicans, so we need to make sure that we do it that way.
We should also point out that over the past 5 years, there's been years where new money wasn't even on
Right.
the table. So I mean,
Right.
it isn't well, it isn't as rosy as I think anybody would like it. It certainly
Right.
isn't as dire as it has been.
Well, and I think that it will go up in a couple of years. I mean, I think it's just something that we're going to have to tighten our belts, be very careful, and husband our money very, very carefully, and we'll be fine.
Well, one of your signatures, you've been a very strong advocate about mental health and
Yes.
services in New Mexico.
Right.
Anything on the immediate horizon legislatively in that regard?
Well, I have a bill that I've been in committee till 10, 11 o'clock at night for the last 2 nights. Brought a judge in from San Antonio, Judge Oscar Kazin, who runs a program, and Brian Sutton, who is in from an advocacy group from Arlington and Virginia. And I have several other bills that are coming. But yes, we need to. I've been talking also with the new Secretary Designee, Brent, and Ernst, and Brent's Ernest, I think he pronounces it Ernest, not Ernst. And I feel comfortable with him. I knew him when he was with LFC. And so I think that hopefully we're going to be able to see some changes coming. We got turned upside down on our heads with the credible allegations of fraud. I believe that our Attorney General is now saying that there may be 1 or 2, but I think he's getting ready to release all of these companies and saying that they need to get paid for the money that they need to get paid that was withheld from them. And hopefully we're going to be able to do something. We have one of the Arizona's companies leaving as we speak, which is turning Roswell clear down to Carlsbad in a turmoil, and because the people who were there had been doing it for years were charged with credible allegations of fraud. So many of them were bankrupt and put out of business, not all of them. And so maybe some of them, if need be, I think La Frontera and Las Cruces is trying to contract with the people in Alamogordo that were there and were accused of credible allegations of fraud, which they've been released. So I think as we look at it, these are our most fragile citizens, or some of our most fragile citizens. And we take care of cancer. We take care of heart trouble. We take care of all of these other ailments that people have. And yet mental health seems to, with each administration, not just this administration, each administration finds a new way to disrupt mental health services in the state. And so I'm just hoping that we can finally find a solution to this and be able to stick with it and provide the dollars and the services. We've been in 2 national magazines with some of the shootings that have gone on and the problems in New Mexico. And I think that certainly isn't another one at the bottom of the list, or I guess that puts us to the top of the list. That's the top of the list we don't want to be on.
Yeah, the wrong end of the list.
It's the wrong end of the list, yeah. So, I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that the new secretary designee for CYFD, Secretary Dinas, was not ill, and she left. And I'm hoping that with her business background and her marketing background, that she's going to be able to do some really good work there. We need that, and I think she's going to be able to ferret out really top people to run the different aspects of that agency.
Well, and I think one of the issues I've heard you speak about is it gets lost in some of this commotion and the rank orders. Basic services get lost.
Basic services get lost, yes, that's right.
Or at least interrupted.
That's right. And this bill that I'm carrying right now, there were people in committee, that were talking about, I can't get services, or I need services, or this sort of thing. So I think we need to make sure that this very fragile population, because they live on the edge, and so we need to do the things we can do to keep them from falling off of the edge, and provide those services. One woman that was there last night was saying, I'm bipolar, and she said, I need services, because sometimes it hits me and I'm walking across the street and I don't know where I am. And she said, I could cause a terrible accident by standing just in the middle of the street because I get confused. I don't know where I am. And so, people like this need to be, though they're not the Boyds of the population, but people like this are fragile and they need those kinds of services.
Driver's license on 2 counts is in the discussion up here during the session. Well, first of all, take probably the more contentious one of immigrants receiving driver's license. Any feeling on how that's progressing?
I don't know. I haven't been in any committees. I haven't read the bills, let me say that. I do know that I do want people to be qualified to drive if they're going to be driving. Hopefully that will happen. But how that will happen, I don't know. I don't know whether I've heard, I believe a year ago, Stuart Engel had a compromise bill that was out there, that driver's license wasn't an ID particularly, but it was gave, like in Europe. My daughter was in school in Europe, and she had an international driver's license. And so maybe there's something that we can do that can hit some sort of a compromise that allows people who are here to, with competence, drive on our roads. So we'll have to see, but I haven't read those yet.
Okay. The other one is someone that's very north of 60. I'll ask with some personal interest.
Sure.
Is the move to move the 1-year ability to get a license up a little further, I think to 79, is it now?
Well, yes. I wish it was higher, because then I would have more than 1 year, because I have to go in every year and get my license. But yes, I think people are living longer. I think people's health is better. I think the lifespan of people used to be shorter. And you look around this capital at the people who are in their 70s, who are running around this building and doing everything, and certainly very capable. So you still, I have to do an eye test every year, and I don't have to do the driving test, but I do have to renew my license, and fortunately, knock on wood, I don't have any tickets. So I guess if you have a number of tickets, they might want you to do a little bit more. But yes, I support that very much so.
But we should point out there's also somewhat of a safety reason that why it was put in place.
Absolutely. I mean, I understand that. I think I had to have a cataract surgery this last year. So I think as you're looking at it, you want to make sure that people's eyesights are good, that their reflexes are good, that they're really capable of driving and can drive safely on our streets. So I don't object to it.
One of the issues that again is garnering a lot of headlines is the missing funding, and that's been over multiple administrations now. But does the Senate have any feel of where that might end up if they're ever going to?
No, we've talked about it. As a matter of fact, we had a caucus yesterday, the Democratic caucus in the Senate, and we talked about that. I think with the SHARE program, trying to find these dollars and where that is. At some point, where do we go? Do we go back so far and try and reconcile? Because I think we've had problems with SHARE from its inception, and try then and reconcile, and from a specific date, then do we reconcile from there forward and cut our losses and figure out that we've figured out as best as we can figure out. I know there's really bright minds out there looking at all of this and trying to figure it out, but I think at some point we're going to have to cut our losses, but I'm not sure what that date certain will be.
Yeah. One of the things that I talked to Senator Byrd about a couple weeks ago is the Senate has always had a reputation of being independent. Is that a nice way? And he pointed out that that's the role of the Senate. I mean, it isn't to be a rubber stamp for anybody. It's to thoughtfully think things through.
I think we're called the deliberative body often. Yes, I think so. I think we, and you know, we're elected for longer periods of time, so we're not having to, like the House members, it seems like they just finish running through one election and they immediately are starting to have to run for their next election, and we don't have to do that. And so it gives us some breathing space where we're not always into that cycle that's going on. But yes, I think we're very deliberative, and I think we probably look at things a little different. You know, people say, well, when it gets over to the Senate, you know, and so I think we give things a very hard look. We don't have as many members. It's maybe a little easier for us to operate together. I think our Senate operates very well and across party lines. I work well with Senator Sanchez, and I work equally as well with Senator Engel, the Republican minority leader. And I think that's the way it should be, because I think what we should be working for is New Mexico.
You've already indicated that you are in conversation with Speaker Tripp. Is there a good relationship that things can get done? And what I'm eventually leading to, and I know you've still got a lot of time to go, but will you be able to finish business by the end of the session?
You know, I'm hoping we will be able to. I think there's always that rumor of a special session that hangs out there. A lot of it may have to do with the dollars that we've got going and where we're going with some of this. I don't know if the governor would, you know, be calling us in to a special session, or whether we would want to call ourselves in. But we do need to deal with this drop in the money and where we're going. There is some talk. I think there's a bill or two out there to bring back the food tax, which I don't think has a lot of push behind it. But it is something that, in taking that tax off of food, that we're no longer getting in, those dollars that were coming into the fund are now not there. And so we're having to scramble to try and find those areas that we can bring money into the fund. So I don't think it has much traction, but it certainly is something out there that has been being discussed.
Education, and it's always, and I think we tend to think that New Mexico is the only state dealing with education issues, and
we're not.
We're very aware that there's
Yes.
50 states out there that are struggling with it, whether
is-
you're top or bottom of whichever you should be on whatever list. But one of the things that's been out there now for 4 years is the Secretary of Education. Is that going to get a vote this year?
You know, I believe it will. I think that I think Secretary-designate Hannah Scandera, I don't agree with all of her policies and the things that she wants to do. There's some of the things that she does that I'm very much believe in and support her on. But I think it's only fair. The Senate is the body that ultimately decides if they get to serve or they don't. I do think the governor has the right to pick her people, and we then have the right to scrutinize those people and make that decision. So I would hope sooner than later that I think it's been a distraction, and I think we need to deal with it, and I think we need to bring her to the floor of the Senate, and we need to vote her up or down. But let me say one other thing. Whether she is voted up or down, if she stays as the deputy or as she has as the secretary designee, she can still stay and fill that job. So it behooves us to either go one way or the other with it.
Yeah, I don't think there's an issue that's perhaps more complicated. I mean, everyone wants to see our education system improve. They want to see graduation rates, but it comes down to so many issues, from testing to teacher merit to how do you as a senator sift through that, what's got to be a massive amount of information to find out what might be the best
Well,
path?
Yes, you're right. But, as a senator and sitting on the committees I sit on, and where I sit on corporations and Indian affairs, and in the other areas that I'm involved with as well. But I think we have to rely somewhat on our education committee and those who are involved. Mimi Stewart just came into the Senate. Senator Sapien is our chairman of finance. Senator Souls is an educator. And many others that we have in the legislative process. Senator Kernan from Hobbs, it comes to mind, is also someone that's out there that is very dedicated to the education process. So I really feel like I rely a lot on some of their decisions and some of their thinking in looking at this, because this is their life and this is what they are the experts in. And I don't want to do brain surgery, and so I think that it's like one of these things that we have to listen also to what they're saying, and we should listen also to the teachers, we should listen to the parents, and we should listen to the students, and try and come up with what we think is the best solution, and the way that we feel that we can be supportive.
One of the honors I have is serving on a organization in Las Cruces that's looking at education, especially early childhood education, because that basis is so strong. But one of the issues you're still dealing with is social promotion, and how do you make sure that child is properly prepared?
Well, I think that's difficult. I mean, you have parents who you cannot hold my child back. Or whatever, and are there probably some children that should repeat a grade? Yes, I think that should be a minute number, because I think we should be providing the tutoring and those kinds of opportunities for those students before they ever get to third grade, that we already are aware that they're struggling with reading or whatever it is, so that we need to have those programs, I feel, in place, that they're already working with those students way before they get to third grade. And I think we need the cooperation of parents in this, and realizing what we're talking about in education is if you have a car mechanic and he can't read the manual, how is he going to be able to put a new starter in your car? If you have a field operator who is operating tractors and they can't read the manual and understand how to do this. So it's not just people who are in the STEM programs that need to read. How do you drive a car if you can't read the signals and the signs and all the other things? So I think reading is I think early on we learn to read and then we read to learn. And I think it's very important. And I want to also look at that bill. I know former Representative Mary Helen Garcia had a good bill out there. I'm not sure if that bill is duplicated this year or not.
Well, there's a reason we do this show weekly during the legislative session, because these things just continue to unfold weekly here,
yes.
all the way to the end of March this time. But thank you so much.
You're
I know
so
your
welcome.
schedule is just packed, so for you to take the time is something that we appreciate, and I think the viewers in southwestern New Mexico appreciate as well. So,
Well, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you.
and we appreciate you watching Your Legislators this week. Again, I'm Glen Cerny, and again, we invite you to make sure you're a member of KRWG by becoming a member online. But again, our thanks to Senator Papen for taking the time, and again, for you as we present our 9th year of Your Legislators. I'm Glen Cerny. Thank you.